Our State of the U.S. segment tonight, the mainstream media continues to attack President Trump. Their weapon of choice, anonymous sources. In all of these supposed bombshell stories about Trump, you'll notice a common theme. All of the most damning evidence is being provided by unnamed anonymous sources. But the facts never seem to check out. Watch.
So we have not seen the memo ourselves, but we've been told about it by some of Mr. Comey's associates.
One, we protect sources. Two, it's not just CNN. It's Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, ABC,
yeah, but who
NBC.
are the sources?
Carl.
Who are the sources? Oh, because they're hiding behind this anonymity.
Oh,
and that's what we're seeing.
Please, do not even start with me that you're just going to attack sources.
Okay, so
that
what
is
about,
ridiculous.
so are you saying McMaster?
U.S. investigators say that they have corroborated some of the communications detailed in a 35-page dossier compiled by a former British intelligence agent.
With me now, former Trump campaign surrogate and Republican strategist, Scotty Nell Hughes. Scotty, good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you. And you know, some points, Liz, I wish that you and I could just quit our day jobs of responsible reporting and do like Comedy Central for conservatives, because we have so much fodder in that clip right there.
Well, they keep lobbing us softballs. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. The unnamed sources thing, I get the importance of that in journalism in the olden days, but at this point, the mainstream media has absolutely lost their privilege. I feel like a parent telling a child that they lost their dessert privilege for misbehaving. They clearly have an agenda. When you use the mask of anonymity to try to get people to believe what you want them to believe instead of just respecting your source, you don't get to use that anonymity anymore at all.
Well, let's look at this. Leaks are bad, but leaking false info is really bad. I mean, if we were to watch a newscaster every night and for 5 straight nights in a row, they said it is going to be a beautiful sunshiny day and there was a tornado every night and they never predicted an ounce of rain, how many times would it take for either A, that meteorologist was fired, or B, nobody paid any attention to them? And somehow the Washington Post still continues to have, I guess, some sort of credibility somewhere, when time and time again we have seen where they were wrong, Liz. You and I would have been fired if we were as wrong as many times as they have been.
No, I mean, they don't even apologize for these things. These stories that they've been publishing, and this is the Washington Post specifically, by the way, that I'm talking about. They print these stories. They spark a news cycle for at least several days. The very shortest has been something like 48 hours. The longest is over a week. I mean, let's go through, and this is just in the last couple of weeks, by the way. We'll go deeper than that in a moment. But the last couple of weeks, these are all the fake news stories revealed by the Washington Post about Trump, obviously in a negative light, based off of anonymous leaks. And then, of course, these turned out to be fake news. The first one, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, he threatened to quit, they reported, when Trump cited his memo about James Comey. Scotty, did that turn out to be the truth?
Fact check, false. No, that was not the truth. In fact, guess who came back and actually said himself? He said himself no when asked, I was never going to quit or resign. And where did we get the apology from the Washington Post? Insert crickets there, sound guy.
Crickets, nothing there. All right, here's the next one. James Comey, they said, requested more money and more resources for the Russia investigation just a week before Trump fired him. There couldn't be a coincidence, the liberals are saying. This is obviously obstruction of justice, because you don't ask for more money and then get fired and assume that that's not correlated. Scotty, was that true?
Cross once again, fact check and wrong. And how did it come out? Sarah Flores, who is the communication director for the Department of Justice, said that is absolutely false over and over again. But Liz, and we can go, there's a whole list of them, even more. Here's what gets me on this one. The problem with it is they still continue to say anonymous sources have more credibility than anybody that sides with Trump or proves that Trump is right or anyone in his administration is right. I don't get it. If this was the exact opposite, you would not be hearing anonymous sources. In fact, Kellyanne got raked over the coals by Washington Post for saying the word alternative facts, which is obviously the world that the Washington Post lives in. Washington Post has destroyed many conservatives, including myself, demonized us, making us look like we are not honest and we don't have integrity when we're saying the exact truth. And they're the ones that fail to face the reality that they are not living in facts.
And you know why that is? You know why they act like this, why they behave in this way? Because the lies, this fake news, these false stories that turn out not to be true, that are coming from the Washington Post and from the left, those stories validate their feelings. And to the left, feelings are more important than the truth. Feelings are more important than facts. Scotty, we're not done. We're not done. We have some more stories from the Washington Post. Here's the next one. This actually came from January, just so everyone knows. This isn't a new trend for the Washington Post. It's been happening for several months. In January, they reported that the entire senior management team at the State Department had resigned to protest President Trump because they said they didn't, Washington Post said the State Department staff didn't want to work with the president. Scotty, was that true?
Oh, of course not. And here's what's interesting. Study your history. I mean, this was just common sense. When a new administration comes in, the old administration asks for the resignation so that their folks aren't fired. President Obama asked for these folks' resignation, and normally they might hold over. Trump was like, get out. I'm good. I don't need you.
Yep. And to me, I mean, I take this stuff very seriously. I don't call for people's credentials to be revoked just because I don't agree with them ideologically. I think everyone has a right to their opinion, even if their opinion is not based off of fact here. But they're getting this close for me to question whether they should actually have their credentials revoked, because this stuff is inciting these calls for impeachment against our president when there's absolutely no proof that any of this stuff is true.
And let's say this. Let's just say in a crazy world, any of it was true. And the expert, how much danger are they putting the American public first? Here's what we have to look at. First of all, you have the characters that are involved in this discussion that the Washington Post is reporting on. And guess what? They are legitimate, very much strong reputations in the national security. And they are calling them basically liars. And they're putting anonymous sources over people that were in the military and generals within the United States Army. That's dangerous to me. And then let's look at the motive. The reason why these whole conversations are happening with the president, he wants to put America first. So then I have to question, where does Washington Post put America when they report false news like this and refuse to acknowledge what their true intentions are?
Well, clearly they put the safety and security of America below their own political interests here. That's what really galls me about this, is that they'd be willing to publish classified information that they believe would harm Trump because they want to harm Trump, and they don't even think about the individuals, the people that work for our government, work for our allies in very dangerous situations. They don't care about whether that information, the release of that information, would harm them. It's absolutely awful. Scotty, thanks for being here. It was great to talk to you.